Well, welcome everyone to our Ready Carlsbad Business Alliance. It's Friday, October 9th. And let's begin by welcoming everybody here, especially those who are coming to this meeting for the first time. We're excited to have you. So just so we can, get to know each other, we're going to start with just a few introductions. I'm going to start. My name is Carolina Alban Stoughton. I'm the Director of Communication and Engagement here at the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber Liaison for this committee. And so next would be Brett.
Morning, everybody. Brett Schanzenbach from the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, President and CEO. Glad to be with you this morning. And I will turn it to Bob Welty.
Good morning. I'm Bob Welty. I'm co-chair of the RCBA with David Harrison and also on the advisory board for InfraGard locally. David?
Thank you, Bob. David Harrison. I'm the Assistant Director of Emergency Services for the City of Carlsbad, co-chair of Ready Carlsbad. As Bob mentioned, I manage the city's Community Emergency Response Team, CERT team, and it's great to see everyone here this morning, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So I'll pass it on to Josh.
Morning, everyone. Josh Mazer, Upstream Consulting, local business owner, and your board representative for the Ready Carlsbad as well. To Armand.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Armand Amaranto, owner of Bio1. Just here to observe and learn more. I'll go to Mark.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Domansky. I'm head of security and safety for TaylorMade Golf Company. And I'll pass it on to, Rob.
Hi, my name's Rob Clapham, EMD Performance Materials, and I'm the site director here. I'll pass it on to Alan.
Hi, Alan Cobb, Bicycle & Cobb Insurance here in Carlsbad. Glad to be here, and I'm trying to find somebody. I don't know that Leela. Hi, Leela. There you go. Sorry, somebody that hasn't gone yet.
I'm Leela Panagitis, and I'm founder and president of Leap Into Leadership, and I'll turn it over to my friend Lee.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I'm Lee Wakefield. I'm the CEO of a company called Stantier Global. We're a security training company primarily. We train people and businesses, organizations in threat recognition, threat awareness, and overseas we train international customs officers and border guard officers. And I'm going to turn this over to Susan. I know you can't see her, but I know she's listening. Maybe she's not.
Lee, did you mean Sarah?
Or Sarah, I'm sorry, yeah.
All right, have some more coffee.
Yeah, I will.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Gilman. I own a company called Coherence Associates. We're a group practice of mental health professionals, and we've had a long-standing, great relationship with the City of Carlsbad, working with fire and police peer support, and this year, city employees who've experienced some kind of disaster or mental health crisis and traumatic experience. So I am driving, and I appreciate being able to listen.
Great. Let's hear from Human. He's one of our guest speakers today.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Human. I own Passpoint. We help businesses stop the spread of infection of COVID-19 and other illnesses in their workplaces. So just happy to hear this, and I'm a newly resident of Carlsbad myself. So excited to hear the news. I think the last person.
And last but not least, we have our keynote speaker today, Assistant Fire Chief for the City of Carlsbad, Nick Ordille.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Nick Ordille. I am the Assistant Fire Chief for the City of Carlsbad. I'm in charge of operations, which is all things shiny and red. So fire engines and ambulances and lifeguards. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and appreciate the introduction.
You're Kathy.
Wonderful.
Good morning, everyone. Kathy Steffen with the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, and I am the Director of Fun.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Awesome.
The director of fun. I want to be the director of fun.
It's awesome.
So let's turn it over to David Harrison for a quick update on everything that's going on. Well, not everything, a few things.
Okay. So thank you, Carolina. And as you heard from Nick's quick introduction, there's good reason why I'm going to be very brief this morning. He's just a tremendous professional and resource and has a lot of experience that I'd like for him to be able to share with the group. And you've heard far too much from me in past months, so I want to keep it very, very short, but I do want to give you a quick summary of what we in Emergency Services and the Emergency Operations Center for the City of Carlsbad have been doing over the past month to prepare for the hazards, potential hazards in our environment. First and foremost, among these, at this time of the year in particular, our wildland fire preparations. I'm not going to talk about that from the real operational perspective. We'll leave that to the chief, but I do want to talk about it in terms of preparedness because it involves community sectors, residents, businesses, and I just want to share some of the things we've been doing in that regard. But before I get into the wildfire preparedness, I want to just say that it's very, very, very important that we continue to stay the course with our COVID-19 public health measures that, of course, first and foremost among those are social distancing and mask wearing, hand washing. All of those remain critically important, not only related to COVID-19, but those are all good practices as we start to enter the early parts of our seasonal flu season. And it's not too early to start thinking about this, to start talking about this with your employees. You can encourage them to get the flu shots. And as we move into December, when we start getting more tracking information from the county in terms of the rates of flu-like illness, we'll talk more about appropriate preparedness actions associated with the flu. But it's not too early to encourage employees to get their flu shot. So I encourage us all to do that. In terms of preparedness for the wildland fire season, I'm very, very thankful to city leadership that we've had additional resources this year, staffing resources, additional staff has been made available to emergency services to ensure that our scope and depth of planning for this year are better than any year in the past. And specifically what I'm talking about is that all of our wildland fire related evacuation and sheltering plans have been updated and incorporated. All of the aspects of doing this during a COVID-19 environment have been incorporated in our plans. And over the past month, we have trained various sectors of our city, both our staff and employees, on how to conduct support level operations in a COVID-19 environment related to wildfire and wildfire evacuations. So there's two specific aspects of that I'm just going to touch very, very briefly on that would be coordinated from the Emergency Operations Center. And one of those aspects is the evacuation. A second aspect is the sheltering of evacuees. Of course, evacuation is a process. It starts with a notification, it starts with movement, evacuation operations, and then the transition to a safe environment while sheltering placement is being identified. As I said, all of our plans have been fully revised for this year to make sure that we're safely doing those things in a COVID-19 environment. We have trained city staff and CERT volunteers in our temporary evacuation point plan. That's been completed. It's been completed, the core has been completed, but of course ongoing training will occur with additional aspects of this as we continue to progress into this season. We've identified temporary evacuation points within the city. We've used a couple of points as traditional evacuation points in the past. I'm happy to talk about those in response to questions, but I'm always a little reluctant to pre-disclose those in advance because they can change. They can change based on the nature, location of the hazard, the trajectory of the hazard, or the environmentals associated with fire, the air quality and ash and those types of things. But we've fully mapped those out. We've edited those maps for evacuation, temporary evacuation point operations in COVID-19, and we've developed the signage to guide residents in that, and we've prepared our notification and communications and how we're going to communicate that to the public. The last piece related to this, for the first time this year, we do have an emergency trailer. We have restocked that trailer, just completed that this week, with the resources that we would need to really rapidly set up an evacuation point with the supplies we would need to do it in a COVID environment, because that's the current signage, it's the PPE, and the pop-up tents and those types of things. Those are now in a go kit, a trailer that we would take to the evacuation location, temporary evacuation location, as soon as we identify that as a part of the evacuation process. In past years, that trailer has been stocked with the shelter supplies, but we have pre-positioned our shelter supplies into our most likely shelter that we would open, leaving the trailer available for the pre-positioning of the temporary evacuation point supplies. So the training has been largely completed. The pre-positioning of supplies has largely been completed. And all of that will help reduce the time associated with setting up these evacuation points and facilitating the flow of evacuees in there. We've involved more departments in the planning process than in past years, in part because we've had more planning resources to do this this year. And those resources have been included Carlsbad Police Department. Law enforcement is lead agency for evacuations, and they are aware of the plan, locations, resources, and the process. We have primary and alternate potential locations. We've involved city planners in this, traffic planners, in the effort to make sure that this is as well planned and coordinated in evolution, should we need to do that. We've applied similar training, planning resources to our shelter preparations. As I said, we've completed staff training, and we have pre-positioned resources, all in the expectation that as soon as we identify the need to shelter individuals, that we can start opening doors and receiving evacuees. As a result of COVID-19 and the screening, the risk factor screening component associated, we do expect the time delay associated. Evacuees can expect to spend more time at an evacuation point, awaiting shelter availability. So in order to kind of attempt to balance that on the other side of the equation, we have pre-positioned the resources so the physical opening of the shelter is quicker. And it's only taken an hour or two in past years. It's been extremely quick, but we want to keep it even that quick or quicker in a COVID-19, because we think the screening process will probably slow things down just a little bit to make sure we maintain a safe and healthy environment at both the evacuation point and the shelters. So I don't want to belabor the point. The relevance of this for businesses is the encouragement to recognize that during wildland fires, Carlsbad has certainly had some past history with this, most recently specifically in 2014, and those fires impact businesses. It can be a direct fire hazard, or business executives and managers can be involved in decision-making related to facility closures and facility evacuations and business park and campus evacuations. All of that should be discussed within the business community now to ensure that the situational awareness is being maintained, and that you are comfortable with the decision to when and at what time it's appropriate to close businesses and that sort of thing. Of course, for businesses, one component that is perhaps a little bit different this year and will make some of this easier is that you may have more employees working from remotely from home, and therefore you might not have the large numbers in your facilities as in past years that require that evacuation process. So there's things for businesses to certainly think through, plan through in preparation for wildland fire season. The last comment I want to make related to that is I've mentioned in past meetings that it's very important that individuals and employees understand that most insurance companies, homeowners insurance for companies for homeowners insurance, renters insurance, have resources available for supporting relocation in the event that your residence becomes unusable. So loss of use clause. And I'd encourage business managers to encourage employees to have them contact their insurers and find out what their insurance can do in terms of loss of use. Now, this clause kicks in when an official notification of an evacuation occurs. Okay, so that's one of the important conditions of this. It's not an evacuation warning, it's an evacuation order. You must move for safety reasons. And but then many insurance agents, a number of insurance agencies, those few that we've touched base with, would want the insured to contact them, and they have some resources in terms of coordinating and perhaps placing evacuees in shelters and hotels shelters. And they would like the opportunity to have that conversation and coordinate that with the insured. So the last piece, I guess I'll say, is last time I talked a little bit, and I talked to the IT committee of the Chamber about one of the more recent developments, resources we're adding to the EOC environment, and that's the Teams collaborative environment application. We've briefed the city manager on that in the EOC. That gives us additional capability. We don't all need to be here in the EOC. We can coordinate the situational awareness and the development of common operational picture, the decision-making resources, both on-site in the EOC and remotely. That also increases the capability of our EOC. So I'm very enthusiastic. And last point is that we've had conversations with and coordinated this with County Office of Emergency Services, and we've incorporated the lessons learned from their practices in the Valley Fire. So I don't want to sound confident, overly confident here. I just want to say we have prepared thoroughly for this year's wildland fire season, and we continue to prepare. So I'm going to stop there, and if there's questions, perhaps after Nick has had the chance to talk about fires, wildfires, fire prevention, I'll be happy to answer your questions. But with that, I think I'll first turn it back to Bob Welty as co-chair to see if he has anything to add, and then we'll just welcome Nick back to talk to us. Bill, Bob, anything?
There we go. Yeah, thank you, David. Just one quick thing, and that is that just for everybody, today is the 1-year anniversary of the earthquake symposium that David and I hosted through InfraGard a year ago. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago already, but it has been. But next week, David, I believe on Thursday is the shakeout that everybody should be aware of and probably participate in. Just kind of a reminder of what to do if an earthquake happens. Our Newport Inglewood Rose Canyon Fault is still out there. Still active. The faults down in the Salton Sea have been active lately as a reminder, but it could happen. It could happen anytime. Not as prevalent probably as wildfires, but they're still out there. So still remember to be prepared about that. And remember that next week on Thursday is the shakeout. So that's it.
Thank you, Bob. And the only twist I'd add to that is that this year, with more people working from home, you'd want to think through earthquake preparedness from your home office environment, and how you'd safely evacuate from your home with your family and all of that. So unless, as I said, we will have the opportunity for roundtable and discussions, but I did, if Nick is ready, want to bring Assistant Chief Nick Ordille into the conversation and ask him to share his recent experiences on wildfires and wildland fire preparedness, prevention week, and perhaps some of his experiences with recent strike team operations. So with that, Nick, I'd welcome you to the group.
Well, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you today. When David asked me, I was excited to be able to present some of the things that I've experienced over the last few months and years, actually. When I first started around '99, I went to a fire not too far after, and a lot of the folks at that time told me that would be the biggest fire I've ever been on. And I've had that conversation now probably 20 times because the fires keep growing. So today what I want to go over with everybody is kind of three things. Go over a current situation report, what the state is looking like in terms of fire growth at this point. Second thing I'll go over is some wildfire prevention tips. And then the last thing, I'll walk you kind of through a day in the life of a firefighter. A lot of the questions I end up getting is, you see a lot of the footage on the news of what firefighters are doing, but there's a lot of questions still out there from the general public about what it's actually like and where do you sleep and all those kinds of questions. So I'll kind of walk us through a day in the life as well. And then towards the end, if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. So let me share my screen and hopefully I can do this.
Let me know if you have any problems, and I'll give you some, I guess I can adjust settings so that you can do it.
Yeah,
Is it allowing you to do?
It doesn't look like it wants me to.
Okay, let me just maybe make you a co-host. And these should have, Nope.
Still
you
not
have
letting
the,
me.
Okay, let me upgrade you.
I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong or.
Chief, as a former firefighter, please be sure to leave out all the good stuff they do as well.
Will do. Let's see. Let's try that.
Right.
Some of the best pranksters out there.
Okay, let me make you host. How about that? With that, you should be able to do it.
All right. I hit the share content and then screen, and it brings me to a page I've never seen before. It says,
Nick, what are you trying to share, Nick? Is it a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Well, we could have you email it real quick to one of us, and then we could pull it up for you if you want to do that.
I don't know if it'll work with the size of it to email.
Open up your PowerPoint first.
All right.
And then hit the green button at the bottom, share screen. And you should see that on a page where your PowerPoint is there. You want to click on the PowerPoint once that screen is open.
Yeah, it's still not letting me do it. I'm on an iPad, which may be part of the issue, but it's not letting me do it. Well, I can go through the PowerPoint. Unfortunately, there's some really good graphics that kind of drive the points home of what I was going to talk about, but I can go through it and we'll just talk about it. So what I want to do start off with is just a reminder of what the core services of the fire department are. We do fire suppression, emergency medical, fire prevention, which is citywide emergency preparedness, as you're all aware of. And we also recently took on the lifeguard program within the North Beach. And just some statistics from last year, we had 20,970 unit responses, 13,331 incidents, 2,796 building inspections. We calculated the EOC activation hours at 980, and then 136 beach rescues. annual budget is $27 million with 97.75 full-time equivalent personnel. In terms of the current fire situation, this is where this has been an unprecedented year. We've now over 4 million acres burned in the state of California, and that acreage includes both state fires, CAL FIRE SRA is what we call it, land, and also federal fires, FRA land. To give some context to that, our previous high in terms of acreage burned within the entire year was 1,975,000. So we're twice that in 2020. And the second, the 1,975,000 was in 2018. So in terms of fire growth and acreage burned, this has been an unprecedented year. And when you look at what firefighters are also facing this year with the COVID-19 environment, and then also with some of the protests and potential civil unrest, it has certainly been a trying time for public safety and the fire department. The next slide I had was the top 20 largest California wildfires. To give a little context about this year, out of the top 6, 5 of those fires happened in 2020. And of those, all of them except for one happened in August. And really what the majority of these fires happened, the cause of the fires for the most part has been lightning strikes. Up in Northern California, you get dry lightning storms, and out in the wilderness area or federal lands, one of these lightning strikes can just, cause multiple fires to happen at the same time. And then a lot of times those fires end up converging and creating one big, large wildfire. So that's kind of where we sit today in terms of, the state of the fire season, if you want to say there's a fire season anymore. Just a funny story with fire season. I was at the Thomas Fire in 2018, and if you guys recall, the Thomas Fire occurred in December. So I was listening to Christmas carols when going shopping for food one day while deployed to a fire, and it was just kind of hit home. It kind of drove home the point to me that there really isn't a fire season anymore. So transitioning a little bit to emergency preparedness and just some general tips. I'll start with general emergency preparedness tips, and then we'll move more into specific wildfire emergency tips. If you want, since I can't show you my screen, there's some good content that's being pushed out by our social media platform in the city of Carlsbad Fire Department specific, that you'll be able to see some of the graphics I was going to show you. But the first one that I want to talk about, there's 3 things to get you prepared in general for any type of emergency. First one's make a plan, and then pack an emergency kit would be number 2, and then stay informed. And we'll go through each one of those a little bit in more detail. In terms of making a plan, you want to create a list of contacts for your family and designate somebody, preferably somebody that's out of the state, as a point of contact that you and your family can all call or email or somehow get a hold of to let them know what your location is in case we don't have communications locally. And then once you guys create a plan, you want to be able to share it. Share that plan with everybody in this context in your business, or if it's at home in your home, and make sure everybody has a copy of the contacts that you did in the first portion. And then practice it. Everything we do in the fire department, we create a plan and then we exercise that plan. And that's the same advice that we would give residents or the business community. Make that plan and then practice your plan. Second thing that we were talking about was pack an emergency kit. And rather than go through all the things that you should have in that kit, I'd direct you to a website, www.ready.gov/plan. And in there, you'll have a whole host of recommendations on what to include in that emergency kit. And then the last is to stay informed. And there's a whole host of platforms now available to keep yourself informed of what is going on. And I think that's one of the keys for us as a fire community, is to be able to reach the folks out in the community when need be for things, to push out content of where evacuations are occurring, what are the evacuation routes, where are the temporary evacuation points, where are the shelter locations. If you're not informed and don't have the ability to go to those areas or understand the implications that we're pushing out, it can create an issue when we're trying to respond and mitigate the problems that we're going to. So some of the ways that you can stay informed, if you go to, and I'll point you to another website, www.readysandiego.org. There's apps that you can download that will allow you to access some of the things I just talked about with the kits and whatnot and staying informed. But also, if you go to that website, you can sign up for Alert San Diego, and I'm sure most of you have already done that. But in case you haven't, I think it's a very important thing. And what Alert San Diego does, it gives you the ability to receive alerts specific to evacuations. And there's other platforms for alerts that we call WIA alerts that go to cell phones, and they're based on cell phone towers. But here in San Diego, Alert San Diego is a way that you can go in and register yourself. Moving on to wildfire prevention. Three things that we're pushing out for this prevention and preparedness month is some of the wildfire prevention tips are creating defensible space. And then we're also going to talk about what do we do when a wildfire is coming. So some of the do's and don'ts. The do's is maintain landscaping, and this goes for your home or your business around the area. And we'll talk a little bit more detail about what that defensible space means. And then practice safe towing. And what I mean by practice safe towing, we do have, there has been several fires that have started by folks towing trailers, fifth wheels, whatever the case may be, and chains hanging down. And when the chains hang down and create sparks, if we're in a red flag environment, there's been instances where those have started some of these really big fires. Some things to not do when we're in these red flag environments, or we have very dry or windy conditions. Don't drive your vehicle off-road or onto dry grass or brush. Catalytic converters have also been a cause of many of these big wildfires. Try to refrain from mowing the lawn or doing anything that can create a spark. There's been a couple fires in Carlsbad that we've encountered that were from workers doing some welding on metal gates near brush, and then that brush took off. So those are the kind of things, when the conditions dictate, that we don't want you to be doing. So let's talk more specifically about defensible space. And typically when we talk about defensible space, we're geared more towards the individual residences, but this certainly has a nexus to businesses as well. In Carlsbad, we recommend 60 feet of defensible space around your structure. And that's broken down into 3 zones, zone 1, 2, and 3, and it's 20-foot increments. So zone 1 is 0 to 20 feet, 2, 20 to 40, and 40 to 60. And what we do within those zones is kind of specify, it kind of progresses, if you will, in terms of how much we want you to do within those zones. So in the first 20 feet, for instance, we want you to remove all debris from gutters, cover foundations with metal screens, use rock or gravel instead of mulch. And this is directly around your structure. And you can understand that anything that's piled up towards your structure or that is flammable is going to have a nexus to potentially light your structure, your home, or your business. So those first 20 feet are where we want to be the most conservative with any flammables. And when we go in and do what we call structure protection, we do the same thing. So if you do this on your own and we come by, it's going to save us. Doesn't mean that we will skip your home or business by any means, but it'll let us maybe look at the next 20 feet. or cut down some vegetation or trees or brush and not have to remove piles next to your home or structure. So the next 20 feet, create landscape that won't spread your fire to your home. So there's things, you know, that we push out, and you can get more information from our Fire Prevention Bureau, the specific landscaping that we would recommend within those 20 feet. And then the last 40 to 60 is where obviously you're going to have some trees, but we want to maintain distance among those trees and keep them thin and separate so they don't create ladder fuels to the structure. And then lastly here on the wildfire prevention is, what do we do when a fire is imminent and it's coming to our location? What is the best thing for somebody to do, whether it's in their business or in their home? The first thing we want you to do is review your evacuation checklist. And this goes back to the plan we talked about earlier. What is your plan? Do you have a plan to meet somewhere as a family? Do you have contacts? Are you prepared with your pets? If you have people that have access or functional needs, what is your plan with them? So review that if you have the time to do so. And this is really prior to go order these first 4 topics that I'm talking about, and then we'll talk about when you're actually evacuating next. The second one is ensure your supply kit is in your vehicle and ready to go. And one of the things that's really hard for firefighters too is when we respond is what is important for somebody. A lot of times if we're in somebody's home and we have to try to remove some of the items and bring them out so they don't burn, what's important? And you're better to answer that question than I am of what's important. So have a plan for those important things. If it's a computer, then grab your laptop and bring it with you. If it's pictures, grab those pictures and bring them with you. But have a plan for those. Third, cover up or protect yourself against heat and flying embers. One of the things that we do as firefighters is we wear long pants and long sleeves to protect us from those flying embers, and we suggest that you all do the same. And then protect your face as well with a bandana or a face covering. And then lastly, there's locate your pets and have a plan for them. What are you going to do with your pets? Do you have carriers? How are they going to get out as well? And then when an evacuation comes, the evacuations, it's a joint effort in Carlsbad between the fire department, police department, and the EOC. We all have a role in the evacuations, and whether they're mandatory or a warning. Those evacuations, once we determine the areas that need to be evacuated, we will make notifications via those platforms that I talked about earlier, the applications or the Alert San Diego. And you would receive those, and we're going to give you some locations potentially of where the temporary evacuation points are, where the shelters are, what roads we would want you to travel. Those are the kind of things that we're going to push out. Law enforcement is the lead agency in the evacuations, and they're responsible for enforcing any of the evacuation orders. So if they do push anything out, we need to follow their directions promptly. And then if, for instance, and hopefully this never occurs, there's no way for you to get out and you're entrapped, either in your business, in your car, or in your residence, what are some of the things that we would suggest that you do? And the first one, and I'm going to go through vehicle, while on foot, or while in your home. And the first one in every one of those is to remain calm. And I know that's very easy for me to say, but much more difficult to actually do when you have a fire bearing down on you. But it does, you know, the clearer your mind is, the better you're going to be able to make decisions. And you're going to have, you know, very little time to make those decisions. So it is imperative to try to stay calm. And then while in your vehicle, park your vehicle in an area that's clear of vegetation. You've seen several pictures of vehicles that have burned, and typically they're usually by some sort of vegetation. So if you can find a clear area to park a vehicle, park your vehicle in that clear area. close all the vehicle windows and vents, and then cover yourself with whatever you have in your vehicle, blanket, jacket, something of that nature. And then use your cell phone and call officials if you have a cell phone. If you're on foot, go to an area that's clear of vegetation. Just like we talked about with the vehicles, vegetation is something that you want to, it is a fuel for a fire. So it's going to create the BTUs and the heat, and then you want to stay away from those. You want to lie down, cover your body, and then again, use your cell phone. And then if you're in your home, same thing, stay calm. You'd call 911. You want to fill sinks and tubs with water if you can, because you're not sure how long you're going to be in there. And if your water is going to eventually be compromised or not. Keep the doors and windows closed, but unlock, and then stay in your house until the threat passes by. Obviously, stay in your house until the threat passes by is great advice, but if your house is compromised and the interior of your structure is now on fire, you're going to have to make some decisions of whether it's safe to stay or go. Any questions so far on the prevention side from anybody that I can answer?
Yes, Nick, we have a question from our President and CEO, Brett Schanzenbach. And for this section of questions, if you could maybe get out of the screen mode that you have to go so we can actually see you.
Are you able to see my screen right now?
No, we're seeing a blank screen with your name on it. So we want to see you. Perfect. Yes, you got it.
Yeah, I have, Nick, quick question. And actually, it's a two-part question. So you mentioned how in 2018 we had more acreage burned than ever before in the history of California, and it was about 2 million acres. And now this year here, just 2 years later, we've doubled that. So part one of my question, how many tens of millions of acres are out there? Because I'm assuming we're not re-burning the same acres. But then the second part of my question is, what kind of open space management do we do here in Carlsbad? We have quite a bit of open space, which we do intentionally for good reasons, but obviously in droughts and heat waves and Santa Ana winds, that all just looks like fuel. So what do we do in Carlsbad to maintain our open space safely for upcoming fires?
So let me, I'll answer the question with the first part. So the 4 million acres, I just read something the other day from the state's website that the state manages 33 million acres or percent. I can't remember what the number was, but that's just the state's portion. And there's federal, there's also private land. So I don't have the specific number in terms of what's the acreage of California. It'd probably be a little bit difficult to get that because some of it, there's obviously development and infill and those types of things make it difficult for us to kind of gauge the acreage because it's changing so often. But I've said the same thing myself. There can't be much left to burn, and every year I keep getting surprised that the fires keep growing. So I don't know the specific number, but I know we still have quite a bit of acreage left. If you go up into the Northern California area, it's much less populated, and you have several forests. The Mendocino National Forest, Klamath National Forest, Shasta, Trinity. There's tons of timberland up there, and a lot of the timber is national forest, but some of it's logging. So there's still plenty to burn, unfortunately. The second part of your question, can you repeat it? I think it had to do with Santa Ana winds and what do we do in defensible space?
We have a lot of open space here in Carlsbad that we preserve, intentionally and keep as open space, in our canyons. I'm thinking like even down Faraday and, other parts of kind of inland Carlsbad. What do we do to, safely manage that so it's not just all, kindling when a big Santa Ana blows in?
Yeah, and that becomes a very difficult and complicated question, and I would refer that to our Fire Marshal, Randy Metz. We do have a weed abatement program and a hazard mitigation plan. Those are managed by our Fire Prevention Bureau, and it does get into land ownership at times. So some of that is wilderness or open space that we can't use mechanized things on. Others are owned by homeowners associations. Others are privately owned. And as a city, you know, in some of those land uses, we don't have the authority to do much with some of that. And some of the areas we do. So the areas that we do, we have a hazard mitigation program and plan and a weed abatement plan that we do every year to manage some of the nuisance fuels. It's a fuel modification plan.
Hey,
Does
Nick,
that answer?
Yeah, Nick, this is Leela. So I've seen some other cities, Orange County uses goats to clear the land and to great effect. It can be pretty fun. We can have, you know, naming goats contest. It could get the children involved, but there are companies that come down and actually do that. And you can think of other ancillary things, making cheese and selling it, Carlsbad goat cheese. So there's lots of fun stuff to do with that. But that is certainly an idea that's worked for other cities.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great ideas out there, and that could be one that we explore. We haven't explored it yet, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't.
Bah.
Any other questions on the prevention side? So let's go towards the day in the life. So before I can explain what it's like to be a firefighter on the front lines, I got to explain how we even get there. And there's a lot of questions of how do they pull Carlsbad to Mendocino National Forest? Or how does Mendocino National Forest pull Carlsbad to them? So I got to go into it a little bit of history, and I'll be brief in this, but it kind of, it shows how we do this and how it's coordinated through a statewide coordination center. So in 1973, we had several major wildfires in California. And it made it to Congress, actually, and Congress authorized funding to make a quantum leap in the capabilities of Southern California wildfire protection agencies to effectively coordinate interagency action and to allocate suppression resources in dynamic multiple fire situations. That is what they wrote and what they agreed upon. And out of that, an agency called FIRESCOPE was born, if you will. And FIRESCOPE initially had several representatives that tried to come up with a way to better manage these large fires. So CAL FIRE, the Office of Emergency Services, LA County, Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, LA City, and the U.S. Forest Service collaborated, created this FIRESCOPE committee, and this FIRESCOPE committee came up with two really big recommendations. And the first one was the incident command system. And the incident command system now, which was born in California, has been adopted by the federal government as the basis of NIMS, the National Incident Management System. And it's all risk, all hazard, not just wildfire. But it is a way to organize incidents and to make these very complex incidents more workable by a span of control and division of labor. The second thing that came out of FIRESCOPE in the 70s was a concept called multi-agency coordination system, or MACS. And this multi-agency coordination system, if you can imagine, the state of California is very large geographically, and to mobilize all the resources within the state that may have competing interests, meaning Northern California may be burning and Southern California may be burning. And if we didn't have some sort of mediation there or coordination, we would be basically robbing each other of resources and not doing it effectively. So these multi-agency coordination systems, we have two in the state. They're in the northern part in Redding and in the southern part in Riverside. And these coordination systems, when incidents occur, they would make a resource request and they would go to these multi-agency coordination systems. They would look at the amount of resources that are spread throughout the state and then send them to the OES regions, or Office of Emergency Services regions. And there's 6 regions in the state of California, and put the requests in. And that's how Carlsbad would eventually be pulled, maybe to Northern California, because it's coordinated through these two systems. So once you get the actual orders, they come through our dispatch and they would request either overhead positions, which are ICS positions, or engines, ambulances, if you have aircraft, whatever the case may be. So then now we're at the point of, okay, I've received an order and I'm going to be on the road. So for me, I was just deployed to the Mendocino National Forest for 14 days as what's called a division group supervisor. I managed a geographic area of the fire and coordinated all the suppression efforts within that area. So my orders came in and I drove 11 hours to Ukiah. And Ukiah, there's a base camp. And that base camp is where we get all the logistical support. And this is where a lot of the questions come from the general public. Oh, where do you sleep? How do you get food? Where do you all come up with common radio communications? Those types of questions. And all that logistical support is typically handled at what we call a base camp. And it's for lack of a better term, a trailer city. There's several trailers set up. And it's very organized. And in those trailers, you have some of the command positions. You have an IC trailer, you have an operations trailer, a logistics trailer, a finance trailer, a planning trailer. And then you also, part of the logistics of the base camp is you have areas that you can sleep. You either put a tent up on your off days, and we work typically 24-hour shifts. So you have 24 on, and then you have a 24-hour off day. You would stay at that base camp in your off day and either in a tent, or sometimes they bring in sleep trailers that you can sleep up to 20, 40 people. In this COVID environment, that's a very difficult task. And what they've done is they've created these sleep trailers for only a select few people and create space in there. And they've had the individual county healthcare systems, which wherever the fire is, they come in and review the plan for sleeping if it's communal, and then sign off on it. And anytime you enter the base camp for the COVID environment, you walk through an infrared camera, which gives them a temperature, and you're required to wear masks throughout the entire base camp experience. So for me, I came into the base camp, you do what's called a check-in, and then you get assigned to whatever you're gonna get assigned to. The coordination is very interesting. So what we develop every single day is an incident action plan. And I wish I could show you what the incident action plan is. It's about a 20-page document. In that incident action plan, it has the name of every ICS position and who's filling it. It breaks down the objectives in management objectives and control objectives. And the management objectives would be something broad in that we want to provide for life safety amongst the community and the firefighters, things of that nature that are more broad. And then the control objectives would be, we want to keep the fire north of this street, south of this, east of that. Those are your control objectives. And that gives you your general leader's intent, if you will. And then in that incident action plan, they break it down into the division assignment. So if you can imagine, and the August complex is the fire that I went to that's now the biggest fire ever in the state of California. It's over 1 million acres. 1 million acres, trying to manage that, you have to break it into small pieces. And the way we break it into small pieces is through things called branches and divisions. The branches, there was, I believe, 7 branches for that complex. And then within those 7 branches, you had probably 6 or 7 divisions broken down as well. The division that I was managing geographically to drive from one location to the other side of that took over an hour and a half. We're driving on roads that are either old Jeep trails or roads that we put in with bulldozers. So it's very difficult to get from one side to the other. And just for context, a square mile is 640 acres. So use that when you're talking about 1 million acre fire on the size, if you need some reference. So within that IEP, there's also a safety plan and a safety message. There's a communication plan. So each division has specific frequencies that their radios are on to reduce the confusion amongst the entire coordination of the event. There's also in there a training message to be able to be qualified in certain positions. You have to go out and get signed off that you've met the expectations and now you're qualified to do it. You can't just have anybody jump into the position. So once we get that IAP in the morning, for me, I would show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I would get the IAP. I'd find where my assignment was, look at the objectives, and they break down the control objectives even further for each division. And then my objectives at times were to put in dozer line, and then we're going to backfire off that dozer line. And that's what we did for 2 weeks. Basically, every day we would put in some dozer line and then backfire off it. And I'll get into the specifics of what backfiring is here in a second. But one of the challenges that we have is maps. And if I'm going over on time, just let me know and I'll try to speed it up. But you're in the wilderness. You don't have streets. You don't have, you know, the typical points of interest. So we use some mapping tools that are pretty cool and unique. One of them is called Avenza, and Avenza, what you do on that IAP, if I were to be able to show you one, there's a QR reader, and I take my cell phone or my tablet and I use the QR reader. It uploads a map to my phone, and then in Avenza, it is basically a GPS device as well, and it will show where I'm driving within the map. And on that map, it has fire perimeter and it has all the geographical branches and divisions broken down. So that's the way we're able to navigate through these forests that really don't have roads, and the roads are sometimes created by us. And then one of the things I was going to show you is IR maps. With every single night, the fires that are these bigger campaign type fires, they fly the fire for IR, infrared. And what it does is it gives you an accurate map of the fire's perimeter, and then tells you where the hottest portions of the fire are. And they publish that to all the firefighters every evening. And what we do is we take that IR map and overlay it to Google Earth in a KMZ file. And we can then see the fire's perimeter and also see the topography in a 3D form in the Google Earth platform. And it's really helpful because sometimes when you're in really mountainous terrain, it's hard to tell where you are in the topography. So when we overlay the heat map with Google Earth, it gives us a lot more perspective on where you are. And in this PowerPoint that I'm going through, there's several examples of the heat map and how we overlay it in Google Earth that I wish I could show you, but I can't. And then lastly, you know, one of the questions that I get all the time is, well, how do you guys sleep out on the line if you're there for 24 hours? Do you get to sleep or do you not? And the answer is it's dependent on the assignment. So while things are actively burning, we're not sleeping. Nobody's going to sleep on the fire. You can't sleep on the fire. It is, you know, our duty and obligation to go and help folks. So sleep is way down on the priority list. But there are times where we're doing things that we're doing tactical patrol or watching the area to make sure that we don't have reignition and don't have it pass, you know, some of our control objectives. And in those instances, what happens at times is you can have 2 or 3 folks on a fire engine be awake and watching, and one, you know, get a couple hours of rest. But those are when the fire is very died down and we're in that patrol status. So typically we're up for 24 full hours. And then on our rehab days, the next 24 hours, we're either sleeping at that base camp, or there are times where the incident will purchase a hotel room. And those are awesome days because we don't get them very often. But when we do, it's a great chance to get out in the AC and really relax and recharge. In terms of food, how do we get fed? They give us 2 lunches. They're brown bag lunches, so there's nothing hot in them. And those brown bag lunches are to last for 24 hours. So there's sandwiches in there and tons of snacks, and sometimes there's burritos, and the burritos, what I do is wrap them up in foil and put them on the engine block and heat them up and eat them. It's kind of like camping. You got to make do with what you got. So for me, I spent 14 days in the Mendocino forest, kind of on that schedule, 1 day on, 1 day off. You know, it is a bear on the family. My wife was back at home trying to do homeschooling and work herself with 2 kids, and it was difficult this time, probably more than others because of the COVID environment. But she managed and we managed. And this is the second time I've been out for 2 weeks. So for me, I've spent half of August and half of September deployed out on these fires. So definitely difficult on the family. And then pretty exhausting while you're out there. It is one of those things that, you know, you're extremely tired, but it's extremely rewarding. So that's kind of it for the day in the life. I'll do my best to download this and get it to Carolina. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Yeah, Nick, I'm gonna just, we have one more presentation coming up, so I'm just gonna allow for maybe just one question, and then I think Leila has one question, and she's asking, why did you want to become a firefighter?
Well, to me, it's a family business. My dad was a firefighter in Escondido and served 30 years. My brother works for the city of Long Beach, and he's been there for 15 years. So I kind of had a family tie. But more than that, too, it's a very rewarding career. It's something that you get to give back to a community, and there's no better feeling than being as exhausted as we are in these fires, because you feel like you've given a lot of yourself for the better cause of the state. And that's a cool feeling. One that it's tough to put out that amount of work, but it's a great feeling when you do it.
Wonderful. Well, you guys are amazing. My son, my 4-year-old, is obsessed with you, with the Carlsbad firefighters. We have all those hats and stickers, and he has Paw Patrol Marshall pajamas, all that. So definitely admire the work that you guys do, and I thank you for your time right now. I know it's the busy, season right now, so just taking time off your busy schedule to join us means a lot to us. Thank you so much. Stick around. We have another presentation, and yeah, we'll make sure that deck and your videos and everything is seen. I have everyone's emails, so they'll be getting those. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. And again, I apologize for the technical issues, and I'll get that to you though.
Nope, not a problem. So next we're gonna talk to Human from PassPoint, which is a very interesting service and very timely service for all our small businesses. So Human, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Human Board J. Yes,
yeah,
we can hear you.
Perfect. All right, let me try to share my screen. Do you guys see it?
Okay, yes.
Perfect. All right, well, I do appreciate everybody taking the time to chat today, especially Nick. I think we all appreciate your service, so thank you so much for doing what you do. I kind of want to talk about PassPoint today, and what we do and what service we provide. Just a little background on myself. I grew up in San Diego. I graduated from Mount Carmel High School, graduated from UCSD with an electrical and computer engineering degree, and worked for various companies, including Nokia, Apple, and Qualcomm. But more so, I'm from San Diego, and my brother is an ER physician at Palomar. My sister's an orthodontist here in San Diego. So it was really important to me when COVID started happening to kind of figure out a way, with my technical background, of how can we protect our first responders, our essential workers, and the community at large from COVID. So here's a quick agenda of what we're going to go through. I'm going to speed through it a little bit quicker, but ultimately we'll talk about what PassPoint is, our privacy and security policies, how it works, and ultimately how it protects you. So PassPoint is a platform that helps stop the spread of infections in your workplace. Now, whether it's COVID or the seasonal flu, we do that by automating and streamlining daily employee symptom screening and digital contact tracing. So the CDC recommends obviously testing as one of the best ways to prevent, but just knowing and tracking symptoms on a daily basis and reminding people of the best practices is a great way to kind of a low cost way to stem the spread of infection. And because we're a digital and online platform, we allow instant notifications if you or any of your employees are exposed to an illness, which ultimately improves COVID compliance for state and local, with state and local health guidelines. And this is important for small businesses as they kind of try to navigate some of the risk and litigation involved with COVID and kind of employees' outbreaks at workplaces. We are a full digital platform, which means that there's no app downloads, no hardware required. So any of your existing iPhones, tablets, laptops will all work. And all of this is built on a secure and access controlled database. Now, when we talk about privacy and security, a lot of times more is not better in this case. More usually means more vectors of attack. So PassPoint is really built with security at its core, which first and foremost is strict access control, both for employees and admins. This means that employee data is not being shared with each other. So if a lot of companies, what we find, a lot of our clients are starting off with spreadsheets and emails, which it's a great start, but it can easily lead to a HIPAA violation if you're not careful on how you're sharing that data. All of our data is transferred over secure HTTPS data connections, which is similar to most banking and financial institutions. We never track any GPS. We never share any of your data. And ultimately at the core of what I believe, and I think what we want to build is your data is your data. So that's why we really take this privacy and security seriously. There's three main components to PassPoint. The first is a daily symptom screener. And the goal here really is to identify symptoms or high-risk activities before they enter your workplace. And we designed a survey that's completed in less than 10 seconds, and it allows employees to self-certify about any symptoms or high-risk activities. Now, obviously, it's impossible for us to prevent an employee from lying or a guest from lying, right? We don't know, for instance, if you've lost your sense of smell. There's no way, there's no test we can do to that. But by having employees self-certify, it does put a little of that onus on them to think twice about, hey, did I really have symptoms? And this, by doing it this way, they really can kind of protect their coworkers, protect their team. Obviously, like I mentioned, we have a visitor and guest check-in, and all of our communications are done in real time based on those answers. And so because we're a cloud-based platform, that real-time communication also allows us to real-time update our questions as the guidelines change. And so since March, those guidelines have changed numerous times. Even a couple of weeks ago, Governor Newsom signed some new laws into place, which place some of the onus of a workplace outbreak on employers now to prove that they did everything possible to prevent an outbreak. And if they can't, there is potential for workers' comp claims to come through. And ultimately, in case an employee forgets, we do have automated daily reminders to kind of give them that final nudge to make sure they check in and answer these questions. Here is the symptom screener on the left. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. It's all the questions you've seen before. In the past 24 hours, have you experienced a fever, a cough, fatigue? And then we ask about whether or not in the past 14 days, you've been in close proximity to anybody who has tested positive or has symptoms of COVID. And then finally, have you followed all state and local guidelines? Have you followed social distancing, wearing face coverings while indoors, avoiding crowds? And then working remotely is a question a lot of our clients have asked for, just more data to understand whether or not employees want to come in, don't want to come in, and it helps them a little bit from a planning perspective of what they want to do going forward. And then that final question, have you answered each question above truthfully and to the best of your knowledge? And that's that self-certification part. On the right-hand side, it's either a green box or a red box, right? You're clear to come into work, or no, you shouldn't. We make sure, again, because of our real-time communications, we can communicate back to employees, you know, here are the best practices: maintain social distance, wash your hands, clean and disinfect. And then if you're staying home, obviously don't leave your house unless you have to go to the hospital. These two screens are customizable. These are our standard out of the box screens, but we do have some clients who want to customize these based on their specific sick leave policies, paid leave policies, so that, you know, one of the things we always recommend is, especially in this time, being sick is okay, right? We want to encourage people that are really experiencing symptoms to not come in the office in the abundance of care, given the situation we're in. And part of this communication is to let employees know that it's okay. We just want everybody to be safe. The second part of PassPoint is employee contact tracing. And this is really to identify those at-risk employees and prevent the outbreak. So we sort all employees based on potential exposure, and our system, through artificial intelligence, is able to highlight the highest risk employees. Employees can be categorized by location or department, so that somebody on the first floor that has symptoms, it doesn't mean that the person on the 5th floor of your building has to go home. We help identify close contact as identified by CDC, closer than 6 feet, longer than 10 minutes. And then ultimately, we provide you that instant feedback so you can react in real time. In situations like this, and I'm sure many of us who have dealt with, you know, kind of these quote unquote fire situations, no pun intended, you know, the quicker we know the data, the quicker we can react and the better the outcome generally is. And that's why we allow you to remotely monitor all your results. So whether you're working from home or in the office, you're able to see which employees have checked in, which are home, which are sick, who haven't checked in. So you can quickly kind of see the status and the health of your overall workforce. And that leads to our final kind of part of PassPoint is our dashboard and instant notification system. And this really, the goal here is to allow you and your business leaders to make data-driven decisions in real time, right? Because that's, again, what we strive for with PassPoint is to give you the data that you need to make the best decision possible. So again, we're fully access controlled, so only select people can see that data. All cloud analytics, we provide all that real-time reporting and notifications. We're not looking at any of the data either, right? I'm not sitting here, or none of my engineers are sitting behind the screen saying, oh, this person's sick or not. All of this is done on the cloud. All of this is secure. Finally, we do provide on-demand audit reports. Should worst case scenario, you know, something happen in your workplace, at least you as a business owner can have that report to provide, you know, if you end up going down the path of legal, you know, litigation and all that, to be able to provide the audit report that says, here's the timestamp, this person checked in, this was their symptoms. And then ultimately we mitigate that risk and liability through all of this data. And I just want to kind of touch on the fact that all this data we collect is your data. And it's not just COVID related, right? In 2018, US employers lost nearly 1.4 billion days of productivity due to sickness. And we see this all the time with people coming into the office and saying, I'm nursing a cold. No, you're getting people sick, right? Because you're contagious. And so that's really the goal for PassPoint of, obviously COVID is the big topic on everybody's mind, but seasonal flu is right around the corner. Cold and flu season is constantly in our system. So this is what we're helping to kind of curb. So ultimately, how does PassPoint protect you? We stop infections before they enter your workplace. We simplify the compliance for you, your HR team, to make sure that you protect your business. We allow you to remotely monitor all those results. So day or night, 24/7, you can see what's going on. You know, we really want to protect your employees from illness, which protects your business from litigation risk, which ultimately improves your overall business productivity. And so with that, I kind of just want to hit on the pricing again. My goal was to build a platform that was easily accessible and really kind of is that low-hanging fruit that everybody can do to be a lot safer. And if we all kind of participated in symptom screening, we'd all be a lot safer as a community. That's why there's no hidden fees, no long-term commitments. We offer a 14-day free trial for anybody. Any business that has less than 5 employees, we offer our service for free. Not as a trick or a scam, but because small businesses are the biggest ones that are hurt through all this. And at the end of the day, hopefully you become 6, 7, 10 employees, and then you become a paid tier. And that first paid tier, 6 to 50 employees, most small businesses, $49 a month. And then 51 to 100 employees, $99 a month. So really reasonable rates that we believe all businesses can take advantage of. And with that, I'm open for questions. That's my personal email. That's my personal cell phone. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I know we're a little short on time, but I'd be more than happy to answer anything or go more in depth about our technology, our clustering systems, our point and risk systems that we've built, the artificial intelligence systems we've built in the background and all that. And then that's the website if you want to try our free trial, or if you have any businesses in mind that could benefit from this. But overall, most of our clients right now are these small and medium-sized businesses that may not have, full HR teams. I work for companies, big companies, like I said, Apple and Qualcomm, they have 30, 40, 50% HR teams. 15, 20% small business doesn't have that. And that's where we help them say, hey, we can organize this whole thing for you and at least give you that peace of mind that nobody is coming into the office with symptoms, or at least if they are, they're actively lying to you and trying to cheat the system. And at least that gives you some protection there. So with that, I'd like to hear any questions you have, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Human, this is Carolina. We only have time for one question, and
sure.
This question comes from Lee Wakefield. He's asking, Human, is CUSD using this service for employees either in the district office or school sites?
Are we currently using this in the district office, or can we?
Is CUSD using?
No, right now we're not using these in the district offices. We started working with Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce just a few weeks ago. So we are excited to kind of get rolling. But a lot of our customers, like I said, are most small businesses in San Diego and California. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but So again, please reach out to me personally if you guys have any questions. Like I said, my cell phone, I'm fully available all the time. But again, we're here to help with a service that we believe is very useful, and all of our customers believe that is very useful as well.
Thank you so much, Human. We appreciate your presentation, and certainly throughout these horrendous global pandemic, we appreciate the innovation and problem solving that has come out of this. Sure. So thank you for thinking about solutions for businesses. And I'm gonna wrap this meeting up here with Brett to give us a little bit of a chamber update, what we're up to, and anything else anybody else have to share.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. Real quick, I wanted to give you guys an update on our Gift Carlsbad program, which is something that we're supporting through the Ready Carlsbad Business Alliance. And we currently have 69 merchants that are part of it. So if you're not familiar with it, giftcarlsbad.com is where you can go and purchase gift cards for local merchants for yourself, but there's a bonus gift card you get for free right now. So if you purchase $25 towards a restaurant or retailer, you'll get a $5 free card. But if you purchase $40 or more, you'll get a $10 free gift card. So there's 69 merchants on it, or 68, excuse me, merchants on it right now. So it's growing every day. More and more merchants are signing up. I highly recommend that you go and check it out. And there's restaurants, breweries, donut shops, coffee shops, retailers, and more. But I also wanted to share with the group that as of this morning, There's almost been $7,000 of economic activity that's come from this program. So that's a great start. Of course, we're hoping to see that grow. 260 gift cards have been purchased and again, continuing to grow. So help us spread the word. giftcarlsbad.com. We need people to make purchases, and we need more businesses to sign up. We want to get to 100 businesses that are participating, merchants that is. And thank you, Carolina. She just put that web address in the chat. And then I also just wanted to share, it's been a busy time for us at the Chamber because of election season. We hosted 3 candidate forums in the last 3 weeks. The one, nearest and dearest to our heart here, of course, is the City Council Candidate Forum for the City of Carlsbad, which we hosted 2 weeks ago. And we have the video replay of that forum on our website, carlsbad.org. And then we also hosted one for Tri-City Medical Center for the Board of Trustees there, which is an important entity in our community, of course. And then just this week, we hosted one for the 49th Congressional District with Mike Levin and Brian Marriott. And that one as well has been posted to our website and to our YouTube channel and our social media. So encourage voters to get informed. As we know ballots are hitting the mailbox as we speak. So get informed and check those out. And I think I'll stop there.
Well, thank you everyone once again for attending. Our next meeting is on, I believe, November 13th. And thank you for joining us this morning, and have a great weekend.